Hi, my name is Bibby, and welcome to my assignment. Over the time, I've produced many pieces of written work, several radio features and shorter pieces. I've also developed my technical skills by twice being selected for panel operator of live radio shows. However, definitely the biggest creative and learning developments have come from screen production. Looking at the course outline, the overview and aims of a Bachelor of Arts media degree from Macquarie are focused on the analysis, critique and production of media. Students will critically engage with and theorise media as well as create media through radio podcasts and broadcasts, creative writing and journalism, web design and interactive transmedia, documentary feature and drama productions, and public relations campaigns. Students emerge with a range of critical skills and at least 2 production specialisations, mine being radio production and broadcasting, as well as film production. This aims to reflect the reality in which the contemporary media producer must be able to operate cross-platform. According to the learning and teaching methods in the guide, as someone at a 300 level, I am now at a stage where I am a reflective practitioner poised to critically evaluate my own practices and experiences, which is the main focus of this capstone unit, Mas316, and this assignment.
You have to make a decision. It's either the new deck or the boat boys.
We have a rap persona that it helps out with MC splits.
Bolts, pies, Phantom Matrix.
Boat Boys, the first production I wrote and directed. Inspired by Wes Anderson's The Life Aquatic of Steve Zissou and the American comedy series The Office, Boat Boys was a short mockumentary about a group of unreliable boys working at a financially struggling sailing club, where the main committee had the choice of keeping the dysfunctional boys or funding a new rigging deck.
If the friggin' boat boys can't get their act together, we just have to get rid of them.
Loosely based off real life, as this is my actual job, I used the club contacts to get permission to use the boats and real members to be a part of the film. I wrote the film with such an array of characters that the film sets up the option for a potential series to be made at a later date. However, as the film had only 5 minutes, it failed to develop the characters further, and this is what let me down in the marking. Having never made a film to this scale or even had a crew, guiding this film and getting the crew to understand my vision seemed very daunting. But through good communication and collaboration skills, I believe I got the best from my cast and crew. For a first-time film dealing with unfamiliar crew, on-water elements, dramatic weather changes and several different locations, the end product, in my opinion, is a very commendable effort. The film is ambitious, unique, and has a lot of potential for future development. I've taken inspiration from The Office and utilised the basic elements used in all mockumentaries, such as interviews, visual comedy, such as reveals, and documentary-style shooting. The second screen production I wrote and directed was Minutemen. Its overall mark was 75 out of 100, and it was in semester 1 of my 3rd year. Minutemen is an investigative documentary that looks into my family's swimming history and where I get my swimming passion from. Outside uni, I'm an elite swimmer competing at national level. My great-grandfather was a state champion through the 30s and coached the first man in Australia, Bruce Burke, to swim under the minute for the 100 metres freestyle. So for me it was a personal mission to get the details on the record before they are lost. I used my swimming and family contacts to conduct interviews with Bruce and my great-grandfather's remaining children. I also interviewed Forbes Carlyle, a very prominent figure in Australian swimming, and a rival of my great-grandfather's, which gave the documentary credibility. As this was my second time directing, I felt I had a clearer vision and greater understanding. Initially I pitched the idea as something along the same lines as the Australian story. The end product turned out well, and was good enough in a broadcast sense, with some amazing archival footages of the 1948 London Olympics. On an ethical note, this documentary taught me the considerations of working with elderly people and making sure interviews are to the point and to be as short as possible. A story like this is what the Australian audiences love. It's a story that's been missed and one that definitely needs to be told, so I'm glad I was able to capture it. My teacher had these comments to say: "Luke, your conceptualisation and directing of Minutemen demonstrates a good sense of structure, character and story." She goes on to say, "More consideration of visual storytelling, drama, metaphor and subtext will yield an even stronger capabilities in the future."
Down he comes! 20 metres to go!
Oh, that is special. That's brilliant.
Didn't get it, I was lying here.
Australia is a nation of fanatic pride and passion for their sporting teams. For generations, sports have been pitting fellow man and woman against one another, starting interstate riots, ruining relationships and destroying families. This inherent Australian competitiveness is so strong in some, it borders on the obsessive.
Producing my second semester of radio production and broadcasting, That's My Team was a scripted radio feature running for 6 to 8 minutes, produced with a fellow student for our class's live radio show on 2SER, which focused on the theme of obsession. This piece demonstrated the ability of creating work for a particular purpose, as would be done in a radio station. Collaborating with someone else proved good, as we would discuss the decisions we were making and have that second opinion to critique as we went, which I believe is vital on any project and a good part of a uni degree, as upon graduation we potentially will be collaborating on many projects with many different people. As we were taking the comedic angle on this piece, scripting seemed to be the best option, as finding experts on this issue of sports obsession was going to be a struggle. The piece ran as an investigation into sports obsession, complete with doctor's diagnosis, meeting someone with the condition, and an affected couple's counselling session, using actors for each of the roles. Previously we had only done interviews and factual pieces, so being able to script a piece was a new experience and allowed me to extend my radio skills and abilities. Creating the different scenes within the project was most helpful, as I have been able to carry this skill back over to filmmaking. I have now become more aware of sound design and the effects through doing this piece. As too with the editing, being able to have even the most basic knowledge of different editing programs can be a massive help.
Welcome to today's Radio Drama, your daily hit of story that makes you flex that imagination muscle of yours. On this special edition show about secrets and lies, today's piece entitled...
My fourth piece comes from Advanced Radio Production and Broadcasting, Semester 1 of this year. This was another scripted feature I did for a live radio broadcast, this time on the theme of secrets and lies. My piece was selected as one of only 4 from our class of 12 pieces to be aired on our show. A great success, as that's the purpose of making the work, so it can be broadcast. This time I didn't have a partner, so the work process was a little easier, as I could work to my own pace and around my commitments. But I wasn't able to have as much feedback and discussion with each creative decision I made as I had done with the previous radio piece. When writing the script, I wrote it the same way as if I was writing for a film. So this way I was visualizing the scenes and settings, locations and sounds within the script. Doing so was a big help, as I had thought about most of the details and sound effects I wanted to include in the piece, as well as the piece's structure, making it a little easier for me to put together. This piece was well received by the class, and those who had not heard my piece from last semester praised me on doing something different to the rest of the class. The feature was the first time I had included a sex scene. Pushing this boundary was new, and I'm glad I did. My final piece comes from semester 2 of my first year, as part of my people unit, Introducing Indigenous Australia. But it received 23 out of 45, so not my best mark. However, it is one of the most important essays that I've ever done, and had the biggest effect on my media degree. The final essay was based around 3 self-selected topics, where we would critically engage with and reflect upon these topics. I focused the essay on Indigenous Australians' portrayal in the media. For me, I see this class and this essay as a big turning point in my degree. It was the first time we really addressed any ethical concerns or portrayal of people in the media. I was so positively affected by this course that I even sent an email of recommendation to the media department suggesting they adopt it into Mas316 Australian media, as we hadn't been taught anything in regards to an Indigenous perspective or the perspective of others when completing our work. The essay succeeds in its argument by being supported by statistics and previous cases such as the emails of Sydney University Professor Barry Spur. It is also supported by the Andrew Bolt case over the remarks made in 2006-2007, where Bolt used his heightened position to criticise that the stolen generation myth is killing Aboriginal people, as it has made the authorities reluctant to remove Indigenous children from dysfunctional or threatening environments. I go on to state misrepresentation of Indigenous experiences and views through the media helps the construction of an Indigenous identity that dehumanises and lowers Indigenous status, thus allowing racism to flourish, as there is an other to target. Writing this piece, I got a deeper understanding of the problems surrounding the unethical portrayal of Indigenous Australians in the media, as well as the considerations that need to be taken into account when creating a story. Undertaking this course has affected my consideration when I plan a piece, or how I would film a piece if I was part of a news/documentary team.